to group leaders.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. And Scrutiny Management Board has walked alongside the development of this council plan since the autumn. And um, on behalf of the Scrutiny Management Board itself, I would like to congratulate you and Cabinet on the work that has been done. I think the encouragement that we gave for you to take a bit more time than you were originally planning to um, get the document right. I think what has resulted in a much better document than we could have hoped for if it had stuck to the original timetable. So I'm glad that you were prepared to slip that timeline and to take a little bit longer. And indeed, I think that the board recognises that again, it's the right thing to do to take a little bit longer yet in terms of bringing forward the delivery plan to make sure that it is able to identify real, tangible deliverables that can be met and the right performance measures to give us all assurance that progress is being made in achieving the objectives and the aims that are set out in the plan that you have before you today. Scrutiny Management Board has its input has been in terms of comment, really, because our meetings have ended up as a consequence of slippage in the delivery of this out of sync with the development of the plan. But we did meet on Tuesday and formally acknowledge the in recommendation form the inputs that we have provided through working groups and through written comment during the development phase of the plan. And it's really gratifying to see that so many of those recommendations, and I won't read them out in the room now because there were quite a few of them, but very many of them are seen in as having been built into the way that the document looks now. And I think we're all very grateful that there's been such a willingness and a listening ear in terms of involving all the very many stakeholders that have been involved in developing this plan. So I think it's a lot better for the extra time that's been taken and for taking on board all the very positive and constructive comments and feedback that everyone has provided. And I think it's been a very positive process.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. And whilst you've still got the microphone, would you like to comment as group leader?
Ooh. Um, well, yes, Independence for Herefordshire welcome this plan and acknowledge that, and also welcome the acknowledgement of the progress that was made over the last 4 years in delivering the previous county plan, which, more than 50% of its elapsed delivery time was impacted on by COVID, by significant flooding events in the county, and also by the huge savings targets that the council had to make, which impacted on the rate of progress that could be made on some of the ambitions that were set in 2019 before all the very many events that hit us were even imagined. So we're supportive of the plan. Look forward to it coming to full council. I think one of the things I'd like on behalf of the group to suggest is that there is consideration given to, in the same way as the big consultations that are on underway to do with the local plan and the transport plan have got um, sort of young people friendly versions of the consultation documents provided to assist younger people engaging with those consultations, that maybe given that this is a 4-year plan, that's quite a long time, in young people's lives, that encouragement to understand what's being proposed here for the county is assisted with possibly a children's version of the plan, which would help to put in context what we're talking about, specifically through the lens of how it's going to impact on children and their families.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey, and thank you for that very useful suggestion as well. So other group leaders in the room, Councillor Chowns first.
Thanks very much. I'd like to start by very much welcoming the plain, clear language in the document. I think it is very readable, and that's very much to be welcomed. And I think that I agree that the diagram of plans is a useful aid memoir and aid to navigation. Thank you also for taking into account my suggestions for grammatical corrections on the final draft. I've got two substantive points. The first one, Councillor Swinglehurst, you referred to this, and I suppose I'm a little disappointed that my grammatical corrections were taken on board, but not my substantive suggestion, which wasn't really about the single word endeavour. It was about the strength of commitment in the document to recognising the reality of the climate crisis and the action that's, commensurately necessary. And I think it's, Councillor Stoller mentioned the so-called unrelenting pursuit of excellence, and I don't think that comes across in this document in relation to the Council's pre-existing commitments, and I would hope ongoing commitment to strong action to tackle the climate crisis. Instead, the language is, I believe, rather weak, both in the overarching text on page 24 and the objectives on 25, and contrasts rather with the covering report, paragraph 16 of which says climate change is the greatest challenge of modern times, but you wouldn't know it to read this document. So I really feel that an opportunity has been missed to have the language a bit stronger, and I think, again, as I said at SMB, there is a contrast in the strength of commitment saying we'll do absolutely everything we can to sort out the rivers, which certainly we should, but the commitment on climate action is very much weaker in the language front, and that's disappointing. The other substantive point that I want to make is what seems, unfortunately, a bit of inconsistency already between the layers of this. Of course, the key thing is going to be the delivery plan and what that tells us about what you're actually going to do to achieve these nice, warmly worded, fairly motherhood and apple pie objectives. But we can already see in the place thing, so on page 23, you've got an overarching objective, protect and enhance our environment, blah, blah. We'll support the right housing in the right place. Point number one on this is that you've missed a bit. Green Party policy is right housing in the right place at the right price. There's nothing said here about price. And that's crucially important to tackling the housing crisis that we have in the county and in the country as a whole. But also, equally importantly, we've then got 6 objectives under the place heading on page 25, which make no reference to housing whatsoever. So I don't see how your objectives are going to help you achieve that overarching, key thing that you thought is so important to really state it very clearly in the overarching place objective about housing. So, hopefully the delivery plan can pick that up, because I think you've got an inconsistency there between your high level objectives, the details of what you say you want to do, and then how's that going to translate into real action. So I look forward to seeing the delivery plan in a few weeks' time, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chowns. Next, Councillor Matthews.
I regret to say there's a lot of wishful thinking within this report. This report is instantly contradicted by other reports that are in the system. And may I refer you to, first of all, saying we will protect and enhance our environment and ensure that Herefordshire is a great place to live, with the right houses in the right place, which Councillor Chowns has just referred to. You're doing that, and your other plans has been proposed is put in a bypass straight through major estates. That, councillors, is going to cause horrendous damaging pollution, far worse than what's south of the river now, and the congestion with the extra houses we have to supply, 40,000 extra vehicles coming on screen, I don't think it's going to achieve what we want. Also, there's a risk of other damages within the report. And then we talk about inward investment. Councillor Biggs knows, and I've always been a big supporter of local businesses and the business community. Unless we've got a prosperous local community, we've got nothing. But then again, you say, the refer attracted inward investment. Councillor Biggs, I wish you luck, but you're going to have a tremendous burden to attract people into this county with what's been proposed in other policies. And that's what worries me. There's some very good, constructive things in there, but if we're not careful, we're going to get ourselves achieving very little and cause and create more congestion than what we've got already. Plus the fact, as I said, it'll probably ease the situation south of the river, but it'll tremendously damage to the north of the river, and I just can't bear thinking about what it'll be around in Kingsacre Road, Whitecross Road in years to come. If things are going on, it'll totally strike out what you're hoping to do to invite people in. All the business people want is a sound infrastructure route down to the motorway. If you did that and did something to help to alleviate, I'm all for some sound infrastructure to help to improve the flow around the city. We need that. We need it badly. But we've got to be very careful, otherwise what we'll achieve there will damage elsewhere. So, you know, that's how it stands at the moment. There's a few things in there that's causing me great concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that feedback, Councillor Matthews. Councillor Tillett.
Short arms and very deep pockets. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader. Sorry, Councillor Gandy, for those who can't see, is feeling my pockets. Like everyone else, I very much welcome this report on behalf of the group, and particularly congratulate those involved that have given us a level of detail that I think we were worried that we wouldn't get at the beginning. Certainly I was present at a very early consultation when, as Councillor Chan says, it was very motherhood and apple pie, and people were saying to me, well, I like all of these, Kev, how can I say which is more important than the other? And actually, it's fine, they're all fine, but what do they actually mean, or what is the detail and what's going to be achieved? And the fact that the bones now have very much more flesh on them is much appreciated. Rather like my two colleagues on my left, geographically, I also am concerned that housing, and particularly affordable housing, hasn't had quite the detail in the plan that the headline suggests, and I hope that's something that will develop. It's very much something that we feel very passionate about. It's also very interesting that the public have picked up what is missing, and the river was right up there at their list of priorities. I think if we'd had this conversation just a few years ago, I don't think the river would have featured anywhere near as highly as it is now. And certainly as someone who's lived literally alongside the river for over the last 30 years, I have never seen it the colour that it is this week. It's, you know, any resident of the city or visitor to the city cannot help but notice the state of the river. And it is right and proper that the public have picked this up as a major concern, and it's right and proper that it now has more evidence within the plan than perhaps it might have done, certainly even, as I say, a year or two ago. Where I will disagree with Councillor Matthews in particular, and this will come as no surprise, is, of course, about the bypass. It's very interesting that, as page 17 points out, that people on the lowest income, and who were mainly represented by residents of the South Y, put the congestion and pollution in the South Y as a top priority of getting round and getting into Hereford easier. And I defy anyone to prove to me that the pollution levels that are suffered by residents on Ross Road, on Belmont Road, and up through Holmer Road, where so many hundreds and thousands of people live, work, travel, and go to school, will be worsened by a bypass. Well, bring on the evidence, and I will admit that I'm wrong, but I do not see it, and it is clearly an absolute priority for people living south of the river. However, the report does also mention, or the public mentioned, the success of the Zipper bus programme, and if I may just slightly put on my City Council hat, this may be information that the Cabinet isn't aware of, but will find interesting. Of course, the City Council's Zipper bus project has now been up and running for 6 months. It has proved very successful, and the data that we are able to gather has revealed one particularly fascinating aspect, and that is that the main stop for alighting and getting onto the system, far and away the most number of passengers joining the system are at Asda. And actually, if you combine that as well with the St Martin's Street stop, the vast majority of journeys are starting there, which only goes to prove that, you know, residents of South Wye are looking for alternatives to access those key points around the city, particularly the hospital, the station, and Hereford Medical Group. So, you know, there are alternatives and there are prospects, and people are willing to take them if they are made easy, accessible, and of course, in the Zipper bus case, completely affordable. But as I say, in general, and almost without reservation, we welcome this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tillett. And the microphone goes back to Cabinet members. Councillor Biggs.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, I'll just take Councillor Matthews first if I can, and I welcome his wishes of good luck. It's always nice to have somebody that's wishing you good luck. Some of you will know I've spent a fair chunk of my life in performance sport, and luck isn't something I subscribe to. It's either best teams win, and generally not through luck. And in terms of this, I think we've got a really good team here, and that's not just around Cabinet, that's not just in any one group, but across the whole council. I think that when you look at the plan that's come together as a result of all the council and all the groups' feedback in, this should be something we can all embrace and take forward together. In terms of what we've done and how we're going to succeed with that, we're investing in employment land. We know that. We've got a plan around that. We're investing in promoting the county. We will make a difference to it, and the growth corridor that we're planning through there, with both from housing, employment, land, and better transport infrastructure, is going to all feed into that success. So I'd say I welcome your wishes of good luck, Councillor, but if it's okay, we'll just work with the strategy and try and deliver it with a winning team. In terms of housing is I freely admit from both of you, it's a token mention. You could say on page 29, housing is brought in there in the growth element. So rather than places in growth, I think that's going to be underpinned by the delivery plan, and that's where it's such detail that we need that's going to come through from that. And of course, the cross-party working group that we're going to be once those terms are signed off, bringing that together. We'll be all working together to ensure that's in place, not just a cabinet or one cabinet member. Thanks, Leader.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I would just, if there are no further comments, I would just like to say at this point, I welcome the opportunity to take this document forward to full council, because it's obviously the council's document, and it's important that the council can, as a whole, can get behind the document that we need, the strategic level, to point the way forward. There has been a lot of assistance from councillors and from officers and Cabinet, and I would like to thank everyone to get to this stage. Councillor Harvey's right. Having more time to consider things has been a really positive experience, and it's always good to get guidance on something that's so fundamental to the council, because we've got to set the scene, we've got to work with our partners in the right way with the right document, and so it's really important that we get this right. I'd just particularly like to highlight the fact that our officers have worked very hard on this process as well. So thank you to Amy, Luann, Helen, Nick and Michelle in particular. And I'd just like to close by saying that the vision, because that had its various iterations, but the vision is delivering the best for Herefordshire in everything we do. That is absolutely fundamental, I think, to what we should be focused on moving forward as a whole council. And who doesn't want the best for Herefordshire? And I think it's important that we always stress that moving forward. So without further ado, Councillor Stoddard, you're proposing. I will second. All cabinet. Can I show of hands? Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And we will look forward to taking that to full council for agreement there, and obviously the debate that will ensue. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the Q4 budget report. This is the report of the provisional financial outturn position for 23-24 for revenue and capital budgets subject to an external audit. And the 2023-24 outturn shows a net overspend of £8.7 million after the use of reserves and recovery plan actions. So this item is on page 95 of the agenda pack, and I would ask Councillor Stoddard to talk us through the item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. This report is the final outturn position for financial year 2023-24 and presents an overspend of £8.7 million, which represents 4.5% of the £193.3 million budget after the use of reserves and recovery action plans by management throughout the year. This demonstrates a significant reduction on the forecast overspend in Q2 of when we proposed £13.8 million. This is a reduction of £5.1 million, or 37% reduction, and is due to the hard work and diligence of the council officers and this Conservative-led administration. As identified through the quarterly reports that I've been presenting through the year, the £8.7 million has therefore had to be funded from reserves. Looking at the details of our reserves, I would like to highlight here that the previous Conservative administration in 2019 had established and left behind a financial resilience reserve of £10 million and had increased the level of reserves by 123%, with the reserve balance being sufficient to cover expenditure for 27.2 weeks and was being 52% of net revenue expenditure. I would like to compare and contrast this with the picture that we inherited last May. The financial reserve had reduced to £1.2 million. The level of reserves had increased over the period 2019-2023 by 21%. The reserve balance was now sufficient to cover expenditure for 20.8 weeks and comprised of 40% of net revenue expenditure. As I said previously, the 2023-24 overspend has been funded from the council reserves. Cabinet has undertaken a detailed review of earmarked reserve balances to identify balances with no future commitments or planned use to fund this £8.7 million overspend. This exercise is an example of good financial management, ensuring that the council makes efficient and effective use of the resources that it has available. The total reserve balance as at the 31st of March 2024 is £82.8 million, comprising of £73.2 million of earmarked reserves and £9.6 million of general fund balance. We will continue to monitor earmarked reserve balances as part of routine financial monitoring arrangements over the financial year 2024-25, and we will consider balances as part of a future revised reserve strategy. The 2023-24 approved revenue budget was £193.3 million, which included planned savings of £20 million, broken into £14.1 million of directorate savings, together with £5.9 million of central budget savings. The revenue outturn by corporate director portfolio is shown at table 1 to the report and is as follows. Community wellbeing, budget of £71.8 million, outturn £71.8 million, variance 0. Children and young people, budget £51.8 million, outturn £63.5 million, with a negative variance of £11.7 million. Economy and Environment, £27 million budget and an outturn of £26.5 million, therefore a negative variance of £0.5 million. Corporate Services, a budget of £26 million, an outturn of 26.3 with a variance of £0.3 million. And Central Services, £16.7 million with an outturn of £13.9 million, which has a negative variance of £2.8 million, giving us a total of a budget of £193.3 million, an outturn of £202 million, leaving us with a variance of £8.7 million. Paragraph 5 and Table 2 of the report shows the impact of the management recovery actions that we implemented during the last year. As I said previously, Council approved a total of £20 million of savings for 2023-24, and 79% of these have been delivered as at the 31st of March 2024. The status of the individual savings plans is attached at Appendix E to the report, but in summary these are: community wellbeing, target £6.1 million, delivered £6.1 million. Children and young people, target £4.5 million, delivered £0.3 million, not delivered £4.2 million. Economy and Environment, target £2.2 million, delivered £2.2 million. Corporate Services, target £1.3 million, delivered £1.3 million. And Central Services, target £5.9 million, delivered £5.9 million. In total, therefore, our target of £20 million, we have delivered £15.8 million, and we have not delivered 4.2. This, therefore, I believe, is the evidence that was asked for at Scrutiny Management Board earlier this year and demonstrates our reasonable assessment and confidence in the delivery of this financial year 2024-25's revenue budget. I would now like to turn to consider the capital outlay, and the revised 2023-24 capital budget of £68.4 million includes additional grants and approved changes. The capital budgets have been reprofiled in line with expected delivery as shown in Appendix B, Table C, which has reduced the 2023-24 capital budget by £78.9 million, which has been reallocated across the following 3 years as shown in Table 4 of the report. The final spend position is £47.3 million, which represents an underspend of £21.1 million against a budget of £68.4 million. This is an increase in underspend of £5.6 million from the position that I reported at quarter 3. Full details for each project area are in Appendix B, Table 8 of this report. But this underspend consists of £4.8 million in respect to projects that have been delivered under the project budget, and council officers are to be commended for their hard work in that area. £1 million is on hold, awaiting successful bids, and £15.3 million is in respect to project budgets that we rolled forward for delivery in 2024-25. The full capital programme, analysed by project for current and future years, is fully detailed in Appendix B, Table B. As I stated at full council on the 9th of February, Herefordshire Council's financial position remains very stable with a deliverable balanced budget for 2024-25, a medium-term financial strategy that shows we will be able to deliver balanced budgets over the 4-year period of that strategy, and finally, that we have strong reserves which will only increase as we begin to pay surplus back into them. I believe this is a clear demonstration of our proposed vision for Herefordshire as contained in the Herefordshire Council Plan 2024-28 of delivering the best for Herefordshire in everything that we do. I would now like to invite my Covenant colleagues to endorse this report and its single recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stoddard. And Cabinet colleagues, any comments, thoughts? Councillor Gandhi, thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Most of the community wellbeing budget is demand-driven, and the Directorate has demonstrated that despite a requirement to save £6.1 million, they have come in on budget. I'm really proud of the Directorate I am the Cabinet member for, who have achieved this, and which is down to the really hard work carried out both by the Director and her staff. And I would like that to be placed on record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gandhi. Excellent point, well made. Councillor Powell, and then Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you, Leader. Given the position that's been reported on children's services, I just wanted to give an early indication of some of the commitments that we've made in the current financial year. Cabinet will recall that as part of our Children's Services Improvement Plan, the Council approved the budget, which recognised enabled the delivery of that plan, but also included a 3-year financial plan based on some carefully considered and agreed assumptions in 3 key areas. So I just wanted to give an up-to-date position on that. Those 3 key areas were a reduction in the number of children in care, the conversion of agency to permanent staff appointments, and a reduction in the overall establishment. I'll deal with the reduction of the number of children in care as the last item, because that needs a little bit more in the way of context and explanation. But for our staff mix and agency permanent staff, we were working on the assumption that by June of 2024, we would have achieved 30 conversions from agency permanent staff. And I'm pleased to be able to report that we have already recruited 25 permanent members of staff of that 30. It is acknowledged that 9 of those are yet to start, but they are permanently recruited. For our establishment, we assumed that by September 2024, the overall establishment would have reduced by 6 posts. And again, I'm pleased to be able to report that we currently have achieved a reduction of 4 of those 6 posts. With regard to our children in care numbers, you will appreciate that operational practice with individual children and young people is informed by assessment of their needs, the risks and the circumstances that they faced based on our thresholds guidance and importantly the Children Act 1989 and statutory guidance working together 2023. This means that operational decisions are made based on assessment, support, planning and reviews in accordance with what is in an individual child or young person's best interest to keep them safe and well. The ways in which we seek to bring down the numbers of our children in care and of course, in brackets, the associated placement costs are across a number of areas. So for example, developing our early help offer, promoting our edge of care and home offer to children and families, expansion of our family group conferencing process, reunification for children with their family, whether that is the safe and right thing to do. And of course, as young people grow older, inevitably there will be a number of children who reach the age of 18 years, so they are no longer looked after, but of course we continue to retain responsibility for them as our care leavers. So I wanted to set that context because I want to be really, really clear that this is about careful assessment of need and making sure that children are looked after in the right way. So it is not a financial target, but there is a financial implication to some of those matters. So the assumptions that we were working to was that by April 2024, we would have reduced the numbers of children in our care to 395, and we are currently at 389. So we know we still have much more progress to make, but I wanted to provide assurance to Cabinet colleagues and indeed to thank officers who are working incredibly hard across the Children's Services Department to deliver right across the range of improvements that we need to deliver, and of course that we are now starting to see traction against some of those assumptions that were made with regard to finance.
Thank you very much, Councillor Powell. Real progress there with those targets. Thank you. Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm following on really from what Councillor Powell just said. I think when you look at this sort of work, and I congratulate Councillor Stoddart on the great efforts that he's done putting this together and actually putting it in a clear and kind of coherent form for those of us who find this kind of revenue outturn more complicated. But I think it's very easy to get lost in the narrative of kind of fiscal efficiency, that we become like that cynic. We see the price of everything, the value of nothing. And as Councillor Powell's just said, this isn't about that. It's about getting the right fit for everything that we do. And that's really hard work, and it's really, really difficult. So I would just like to pay tribute to the environment bit of the overall work of the council in what they've managed to achieve between Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4. You know, all of this work is hard, it's difficult, it's remarkable, and I just want to acknowledge it because all too often I think it goes unremarked. So we'll always notice when it goes the other way. But let's just take a moment to go, well done for what you've achieved. It's really, we know it's hard, but well done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more points from Cabinet members? If not, I'll go to group leaders who wish to speak. Councillor Chowns.
Thanks very much. I'll begin perhaps with my what feels like it's becoming a little bit of a tradition of a suggestion about how the presentation of the data could be yet further improved, Councillor Stoddart, because it is a lot of data. There's a heck of a lot in here, and it just strikes me that presentation of, I think I have banged on about this before, presentation of raw numbers is quite hard for people to get their heads around, and I do think that a presentation of kind of percentage overspend or underspend would be a really helpful way for people glancing through to get a bit of a grip on which of these things have gone completely or very different to projections, and that helps, you know, the more casual reader. You and I obviously pore over every single digit, but you know, it might help the more casual reader to get a bit of a grip around which things they might want to pay some attention to, possibly with some colour coding and conditional formatting, but you know I like that sort of thing. Just a couple of sort of substantive points just to highlight. If anybody's got any comments on that, that would be helpful. Page 102, I noticed that, so there is, you know, I think it's something like £2 million underspend on environment, highways and waste in comparison to the other areas of E&E, which from memory are economy and then the kind of management costs. So in both of those areas, we've got really significant overspends in relation to budget and a commensurate underspend in relation to the actual bit that sounds like it's the kind of service delivery on the ground. And I to residents here, because obviously fixing potholes, collecting bins and all the rest of it, that face-to-face service is super important. So it does seem a little bit concerning that that is, having been squeezed in the budgeting process, that area of frontline services, we are even underspending on that very minimal in comparison to need budget that there is. So I think comment on that would be helpful. Page 106, yet again, the £1 million Capital Development Fund has not been spent. I think this is something like the fourth year that this fund has not been spent. Again, this is an issue I do keep banging on about. What is the point of having that money allocated in the budget if the restrictions around using it are such that it has never, none of it has ever been spent in 4 years of it being in the budget? The whole purpose of that fund was to enable the council to invest up front in doing the groundwork for capital projects that would enable us to then, when government says, here's a funding opportunity, here's the hoop, you got to jump, we would be able to say, yes, you know, we have got a shovel-ready or semi-shovel-ready project. If we cannot spend the resources we've set aside ourselves internally to do that with the Capital Development Fund, what on earth is the point of it being in the budget? So please, I think the purpose of having that money allocated is really useful and important. Please, can we unlock that? And then the last substantive point I wanted to bring up, page 110, the home upgrade grant, again, is underspent this year by more than £3 million. I mean, obviously, I was dealing with this myself as Cabinet member, Councillor Swinglehurst, I'm sure you're very familiar with, and you can run us over the reasons why this is a problem. But we are now into, I think it is the 5th year of short-term government funding for energy efficiency, for which the restrictions are so severe that basically the money cannot be spent, and the supply chain is so underdeveloped because the funding is so short-term that we have these terrible restrictions, and yet again we are underspent by more than £3 million. And indeed, I note from the papers that only 3 months ago, we were expecting to have spent more than twice as much as we have actually spent this year. So just 3 months ago, we were completely overestimating our capacity to spend on that grant. So it feels like this is still not working anywhere close to as well as it needs to work. And the needs are there. I think in our own documentation, possibly even in the council plan, we talk about the problem of fuel poverty in this county, the fact that it's higher than national average, higher than regional average. Why on earth are we still failing to spend the peanuts that government allocates to home insulation, which is so crucial and will be yet again this winter? So I'd really welcome comments on those 3 specifics if you've got them. Thank you.
Thank you for those useful suggestions and feedback. Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, I think Councillor Stobbart and our officers are to be thanked. They've done some excellent work of keeping a tight control of finances, and of all the teams around this council, I have as much confidence in them as any. I've got great admiration for them, and as I said, like, keep up the good work, and I fully support what you're doing. What I would like to do, Leader, is ask Councillor Powell. We're pleased to say he's making steady progress in the children's department. Could he tell us whether the slight reduction in numbers of children coming into care, that is brought about by early intervention, and is that system has been as successful as it was when it started?
Okay, we'll pick that up. But any other points, Councillor Matthews?
No, that's it. Thank you. Just
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tillett?
Thank you, Leader. Just a couple of points. Yes, absolutely, to congratulate those who have done the juggling, and I particularly want to echo the point that Councillor Gandy made. As Vice Chair of Healthcare and Wellbeing, it would be entirely inappropriate if I didn't echo and acknowledge what she said, the fact that community and wellbeing have achieved very, very substantial savings. In fact, if you look, it's towards half of the savings, total savings, and they are to be congratulated because they are a demand-led service, and we've heard from Councillor Powell how challenging, and we know over the years how challenging the demand-led services can be. So I join in those congratulations, and it's good that the Director is here to hear them alive herself. But of course, having acknowledged how difficult demand-led services are, and how the budget for the current year still relies so heavily on savings, and given the difficulty for children and young people services in achieving those savings, and this was certainly a concern I know that the group leader expressed when we were discussing the budget for this year. Well, I won't wish him luck because that has clearly been declined by at least one cabinet colleague, but I certainly will wish him very well, and the need to report and monitor those projected savings are absolutely critical, because as we've seen here, when children's services overspend, it skews the whole situation, and whilst it is right to congratulate Councillor Stoddard, the Cabinet, and all the officers concerned about their very sound financial management, the bottom line is that this council, like councils up and down the length and breadth of the country, would not be having to go through these tortuous, painful, difficult decisions and budgeting processes year after year if we had not seen year after year deliberate underfunding by national government. And the fact is that we are having to fight that all the time, and congratulations for doing it, but no congratulations to national government for putting all councils in this ridiculous position. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. And last but by no means least, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Leader. And, I'd like to add my voice in congratulating at least 4 out of the 5 service line areas of the council for coming in on or under budget. As Councillor Stoddart, with his military background, will no doubt attest, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And so no budget ends up being delivered quite how you expected it when you put it together. However, you know, I'm going to pat the previous coalition on the back a little bit, because despite pre-election scaremongering and post-election bleating, this was a deliverable budget, outside of the catastrophic overspend that was once again incredibly accurately forecasted at Q1 in the Children's Directorate. The rest of the year didn't necessarily turn out quite the way planned, but congratulations to everybody involved in, you know, pulling together to, broadly speaking, come in on or under budget for your directorates and service areas. I'm really pleased, Councillor Stoddart, that you majored to the extent that you did on the subject of reserves, which are, after all, they're a bit like, you know, the savings that we have in our own private lives for rainy days. And between 2019 and 2023, we had a lot of rainy days, real and metaphorical, here in Herefordshire. And as a consequence, those reserves went down a little bit. And it's good to see that there's an opportunity, hopefully, for them to start to be built up, and certainly as far as the general reserve is concerned, at least maintained. But I have a couple of questions about the reserves, which I'm hoping, seeing as you seem to be thoroughly on top of the numbers now, you'll be able to answer for us here in the room. But if you're not, I'd appreciate them being answered in writing in sufficient time, possibly to be able to ask some written questions in time for full council next week. But so could the Cabinet Member please explain the changes in the reserves position between the end of year forecast, which was provided when the budget was set, and the figures that are presented here today? Which lines in the reserves have provided the funds to cover the £8.7 million worth of overspend that was the overall outturn for the year? And which lines in the reserves will provide the £2.3 million required to balance the current year's budget in line with the budget amendment which was approved at full council back in February? And the other point that I'd like clarification on is that full council in February 2023 agreed that, you know, given the hardship and the fact that we were maximising the council tax uplift, that what goes around comes around, and that the council was going to expect an increase in its income from investments and from cash as a consequence of interest rates being as high as they were, which were creating damage elsewhere in our system. But that the additional income received from the higher than expected interest rates should be used to fund additional hardship support to residents as part of the targeted support to the hardest hit households during the economic crisis. And we can see in the figures that we've got in the report before us today that at Q4, the report appears to show 3.8 million of additional interest receivable being used to offset the council's overspend. So I'd just like a bit of clarification, please, from the Cabinet Member regarding how much of the additional income received from interest receipts in year has actually been used by his minority administration to support the low income households as originally intended when the budget was set in February 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Thank you for those comments and questions, and the Cabinet members digesting that and getting advice. But we go back to the points that were raised, in particular I welcome Councillor Jones's comments about presentation, and the presentation's getting better, but also Councillor Stoddard, for future, can you bear in mind percentages and a bit more colour in your charts? There's some feedback to mull over there. There was concern, though, Cabinet, about the fact that there was some under-delivery in the grant spending. Is there any comments that Councillor Swinglehurst?
Thank you. Actually, yeah, very, very happy to take that up. Number of reasons. Partly the procurement had to be redone. Partly the government's criteria and instructions taking a while to come out. We are in fact delivering more than most other counties. So although we're behind, we're actually doing well compared to everybody else. What I'm grateful for is the opportunity to speak about the home upgrade grant and what you need to be to qualify, because that's just really important. It will help us address our older leaky housing stock and to combat fuel poverty. In order to qualify, you have to live in Herefordshire. You need to not have mains gas heating. You have to own or privately rent an inefficient home, which is an EPC D, E, F or G, and have a combined household income of under £36,000 a year, although in some instances it may that may be flexible, could be slightly more, it depends exactly where you are, but it's worth getting in touch if you feel that you may qualify for this grant, because you know, we would like to, I always think we want to get the money out the door, we want to keep the heat in the house. So please apply if you can. And the other thing, I think, over the details of where the underspends were, that 0.8 underspend in energy costs as 1.2 million reduced electricity costs, which is offset then by 0.2 increase in gas costs. So that's the sort of market changes, and some money with solar panels, and 0.5 underspend in respective concessionary travel. I think that's just under subscription, people not taking it up. 0.6 underspend in respect of employees and agency, and 0.2 underspend in winter maintenance, and 0.2 income for trade waste. So hopefully that sort of breaks that apart a little bit in a helpful way.
Sorry, was that responding to me? Because I didn't ask about that.
I thought you were saying why was there such a variance in the economy and environment underspends?
Yeah, but I can read the detail in
Okay, sorry.
I can read the detail there.
Then.
It's more about the, you know, the fact that we're not spending the limited amount of money that we have allocated to those frontline services. So, you know, really, is there a commitment to doing that more? Because effectively we've doubled the spending on management and on growth, and commensurately reduced spending in those other areas.
I think that's what I'm saying is it's not reduced spending so much as things cost less unexpectedly, so we're budgeted for, and therefore there's a.
Then could we fill a few more potholes if we're being more efficient doing it?
We are in fact investing more money
Then
in filling potholes. Thank you.
While we're on the subject of investing in roads, we're spending 38 million this financial year, which is 12 million more than the previous year. So we are addressing that. Councillor Stoddard, you wanted to come back on a couple of points. Is it the points that Councillor Harvey raised? Because Councillor Matthews, though, had a query about the reason behind the reduction in children's numbers, or if Councillor Powell can just clarify to Cabinet what the position on that.
Thank you. So there are a combination of things that we are striving to do. We've seen children in care steadily reduce, currently to 389. We know, and this is absolutely not a target, I need to be absolutely clear about that, but we know that our so-called statistical neighbours would be in the region, would have in the region of 270 children in care. Now that is absolutely not a target, but that's an indication of the distance that we still have to travel. So there are a range of things. We seek to reunify children with their families where it is safe to do so. Obviously, in certain circumstances, we need to pursue permanence and adoption. we have taken a number of cases back to the family court for the discharge of care orders. And obviously, there will be a number of children who reach the age of 18 years who, by definition, will not be a looked after child, but will, of course, become a care leaver. And there are currently 97 children who are in the age group 16 to 18 years. So the question very specifically was about the impact of early help. So those I've described a range of things there which are absolutely not about early help. We know we need to do more and make more progress with our early help offer. But just to give some assurance on the direction of travel there, we know that we have seen significant increases in the number of our partner agencies who are conducting early help assessments, and those early help assessments then mean that the family and child or children concerned are supported by targeted early help, which is a service from the council. It is also important to reinforce this, and I've said this, we are working with the Children's Safeguarding Partnership, and we have received some funding from the department to improve our early help offer. Now, early help is for all agencies working together, is very clear about that. It is not only about the council's targeted early help offer. So, in summary, there are a range of operational matters that are being handled to reduce the number of children in care that we have now, and there is ongoing proactive activity to improve the early help offer to support families at an earlier stage and obviously prevent them from escalating where the children may need to be taken into care.
Thank you very much, Councillor Powell. And Councillor Harvey was asking for information so that it would help her be in a position to ask questions to full council. Councillor Stoddart.
Thank you, Leader. In regards to the specific questions from Councillor Harvey, the reserves identified by the budget amendment at full council in February, I can confirm have been fully preserved as required. The care market costs of £959,000 and the financial resilience reserve of £1.344 million are fully untouched and are reserved for exactly the purpose that was specified in the amendment. I can also confirm that all financial transactions in the year will be subject to detailed testing by our external auditors over the summer months, and I can also confirm that I'll provide a written response in terms of the detailed reserve movements to Councillor Harvey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the recommendation, which is the reviews of the financial outturn for 23-24 as set out in appendices A and E, and any identified actions to be considered. That's the proposal in front of us. That's proposed by Councillor Stoddart. I will second that. Cabinet, all in favour? Okay, thank you very much. And moving swiftly on to agenda item 9, which is the Q4 performance report. And this item is to review the performance of the Q4 of the 2023-2024 budget and the performance, and to report the position from all directorates for this period. The agenda item begins on page 131 of the agenda pack, and I would like to go back to Councillor Stoddart once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. This report constitutes the final report on the previous administration's county plan and its associated delivery plan for 23-24. The performance reports for this financial year 2024-25 going forward will be based on the Herefordshire Council Plan themes of people, place, growth and transformation, and the measures will be detailed in the delivery plan. Directorates continue to work towards achievement of their stretch target set. It should be noted, however, that where comparisons can be made with performance last year, performance is generally better than 12 months ago. The dashboards for the areas of economy, environment, community and corporate, which were attached to Appendix A to the report, provide the status of the large number of projects and activities that Herefordshire Council undertake on behalf of all of our residents. Where the status of these items is amber or red, there is a corresponding comment from the respective project manager explaining why this is the case. Within economy, there are 52 activities on the delivery plan, with 14 comprising of 27% complete, 19 are on track, which is 37%, 18 are amber, which is 35%, and 2% is red. Where performance measures have been set, 58% are on target or complete, which is an improvement on the 50% at Q3. Within environment, there are 37 activities on the delivery plan, with 12 or 33% complete, 17 are green or 46%, 7 are amber, 19%, none are red, and 1 or 3% is currently paused. Environmental health and development planning continues to carry significant levels of vacancies, which is significantly impacting performance. I would like to highlight that both services are part of the transformation programme, which seeks to improve efficiencies, introduce new planning and regulatory software, and review structures. In respect of the new household waste contract, FCC have been appointed as our new provider for the collection of household waste, and the new contract will provide the council with new vehicles across the fleet, and 2 electric vehicles will operate in the city centre. Within community, there are 84 activities on the delivery plan, 32 or 38% are complete, 36% are green, 17 are amber, which equates to 20%, none are red, and 5, which equates to 6%, are paused. We continue to make progress in relation to short breaks for children, including mobilisation of new providers offering group-based activities and one-to-one daytime support. In February 2024, Ofsted carried out their 4th monitoring visit, focusing on children in care aged 16 and 17-year-olds and care leavers. Ofsted noted that our practice is still too variable, and while some children and young people receive a better service, not enough do. Whilst feedback from Ofsted across each of the 4 Ofsted monitoring visits has acknowledged that improvements have been made, not all improvement is quick enough, and some basic practice is not yet consistently good enough for all children and young people. Improved practice across the service is focusing on the quality of assessments, the quality of plans and planning, supervision and management oversight, purposeful visiting, and safely reducing numbers of children in our care. The Ofsted annual conversation has been moved to the 21st of August 24, and the self-evaluation form is being prepared. A 5th Ofsted monitoring visit is likely in the summer, and the SEND inspection is also anticipated. The refreshed improvement plan is due to be presented to Cabinet in June 2024. Deborah McMillan has taken over from Gladys Rose White as our DFE Improvement Advisor, and Eleanor Brazil remains the Children's Commissioner, and her progress review report was published in December 2023. The next review is expected to take place in June 2024. Within corporate, the percentage of invoices paid within target is 92.26% for the 12 months of this financial year, better than target and performance at the same point last year, and this despite the increase in invoices being processed. The processing of housing benefit new claims and change of circumstances continues to remain steady and within target. Council tax collection rates have hit the target for the 23-24 year, and business rate collection rate gap is closing significantly, with only less than a 0.5% gap compared to last year. Despite still being behind target, the response rates to complaints has improved during the last couple of months. Historically, responses to complaints have been late, inconsistent or non-existent. There has, however, been significant improvement in the response times across all directorates. Through the last year, the annualised sickness absence rate has increased from 8.81 days at the end of February 2023 to 9.17 days per full-time equivalent at the end of February 2024, reversing the improved rates that have been reported since August. The services continue to proactively manage absence, and greater focus is being given to supporting our employees to be healthy in order to improve attendance. Workplace stability is good and improving, with turnover decreasing from 18.18% at the start of the year to 12.65% in February 2024. The council approach to reward and recognition continues to be reviewed to ensure that the overall employment offer is competitive and that Herefordshire Council is seen as an employer of choice, continuing to capitalise on the very positive results of last year's staff survey. And finally, we've noted the continued shift in proportion of parking transactions being made by card or phone. 62.02% transactions have now been made by card or phone in the last 12 months. The Office for Local Government, or OFLOG, is an office of the Department for Levelling Up in Communities and was established in July 23 to provide information about the performance of local government to audiences in all levels of government and the public. A summary of our current performance against the indicators in general shows that the Council has improved across most metrics, and these are reported in the report at Appendix B. In conclusion, I'd now like to invite my Cabinet colleagues to endorse this report and its single recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stoddart. And Cabinet members, any thoughts or comments? Councillor Swinglehurst.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stoddart. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit more detail in this report about the home upgrade grant, which was the subject of a bit of debate in the last bit when we were talking about the outturns. But it gives a kind of a kind of good narrative here, which is that that there was an issue over procurement, and one of the real problems is with the very slow processes of the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. So we kind of have a bit of a drag anchor on our ability to go faster at the moment. However, across the 60 local authorities in the consortium, Herefordshire Council has been the top performer by a significant margin, accounting for the majority of installations by comparison. We're certainly not going to be returning any of the grant, but we do invite applications, and we're looking for more householders who would like to take advantage of this grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinglehurst. Any more comments on the performance? If not, go to group leaders. Councillor Chowns.
Thank you very much. There was just one point that I thought I'd flag. I mean, you know, generally, congratulations on all the good performance and so forth. Paragraph 22 talked about sickness absence increasing, which is a bit disappointing to see. And I wondered if it was possible to have an estimate of the cost of sickness absence. I mean, I did a little bit of a back of the envelope calculation. It's about 3.5% of staff time and staff costs it is now. And it just struck me, I happened to be speaking with a member of staff just recently who was talking about, wouldn't it be great if Herefordshire Council could offer free or discounted membership of Halo, which obviously is an arm's length organisation. But this staff member was talking about, you know, how useful that would be in terms of investment in staff well-being and so forth. And indeed, I think it's paragraph 23 in the report that talks about the support that we provide to employees' well-being, access to, you know, talking support and therapy and so forth. Personally, I find that going to Halo Leisure Centres is absolutely brilliant for my well-being, and I would really love to see whether we could explore encouraging and supporting our staff to do that as a kind of, you know, preventive, helping to maintain health and well-being. And hopefully, you know, it could, I think, very easily pay for itself in terms of, you know, in ensuring that what we did have as a trend of reducing staff sickness absence, which is unfortunately reversed, it might help us to return back to that positive trajectory. Just a suggestion.
Thank you for that, Councillor Chowns. Useful suggestion. Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, just very briefly. You'll be pleased to see back with Councillor Biggs. Councillor Biggs, on page 139, the support of the growth of tourism, I think, and I feel, and I'm sure you will yourself, can you tell us what you're doing or hope to do to help to build up the tourist business in this county? Because I feel that it's been neglected for far too long. There's a lot of potential in a beautiful county like this to bring in a lot of jobs and boost the economy. So could you just comment and give me your views on that? And that's on page 139.
Any other points as well,
No,
though?
no,
Okay.
apart from that, quite happy, but just notice that point. It's something I've raised before.
Okay. Councillor Harvey?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yeah, as I commented in the previous agenda item, given that more than half of the elapsed time for the delivery of these objectives linked to the county plan has been impacted by COVID and then by extreme savings targets linked to needing to fund performance improvements in children. So with that in mind, it is good to see the deliverables that have been completed or are on track in terms of their delivery, and the performance figures themselves in terms of giving assurance that we are achieving or exceeding the targets that we've identified, to give an indication that we are performing as we would hope. But equally, I think, for me, looking at the report and the appendix to it, I was quite disappointed and concerned that so many of the deliverables and measures of performance in the children's area have not received the attention that they've needed, um, even to report on performance achieved, let alone to then put that performance in context by setting meaningful targets for achievement, so that we can get a sense of whether the performance that we are achieving is, as we would hope. And as I've said previously, I really do know what a struggle it is to actually get performance figures and real meaningful milestones, um, you know, nailed down in a delivery plan, and agreed with directorates and service areas. So I think some of the recommendations that the Scrutiny Management Board has already made, and we will be reviewing the draft delivery plan before it comes to Cabinet in a working group. I hope that we can make some constructive suggestions, and to give you every encouragement to, pursue that objective, in terms of actually getting some real meaningful milestones and performance measures identified and signed up to. But what I'd also like to say is that it was also disappointing to see in the national press the reports on the first release of the off-log performance data, which appear to show Herefordshire in such low positions with respect to statistical neighbours in the very few areas that the off-log stats have actually been released for. That said, Independents for Herefordshire are prepared to take these off-log early stats with a bucket of salt, until the government approach to their analysis and presentation is better understood and hopefully better developed. There's lies, damn lies, and statistics, and the devil is in the detail. I think I'd like us to better understand what those figures are telling us, but I'd really like to make sure that we're, making the right comparisons in taking a view on how Herefordshire performs, and with respect to, some meaningful statistical neighbours, if that's the right thing to do. As Scrutiny Management Board has already recommended, much work needs to be done in terms of ensuring that the strategic aims of the council plan are translated into meaningful objectives with tangible in-year deliveries and relevant performance measures. So, I look forward to another draft of the delivery plan, but welcome the report in terms of signing off on where we got to last year, recognising that a lot of the things that are in that performance report are pieces of work that will continue into the delivery plan and into the council plan that you've had before you today.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. And Councillor Tillett? Nope. Okay, thank you. Point taken. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Stoddart, yeah.
Thank you, Leader. If I can address some of the points that Councillor Chans made earlier. There is no cost associated with sickness because we don't backfill. We carry on. Yeah. Okay, I will look at that separately. Yeah. She also mentioned the range of the Halo bits. I can confirm we actually offer that as part of a corporate membership already to all employees at a reasonable cost. It's part of the It's part of the offering for £37.75 a month for swimming, all gyms across the whole county, free car parking, etc. It's part of the offering.
That's only a 25% discount on the standard price. And the staff member who mentioned it to me didn't seem to be aware.
Yes, okay. Well, the 6 weeks is, the first 6 weeks are free as well. So I think the learning from all of this is to make sure that staff are fully aware of the offers that are currently available for them. And the matter will remain to be reviewed by management because there are obviously health benefits, as has been mentioned, when it comes to accessing leisure and fitness facilities for the benefit of physical well-being and mental well-being. So, yeah, thank you for that. Okay, with all... Councillor Biggs.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Matthews, for mentioning tourism. Another great team involved there with the destination bid that run tourism. If you'd like, I think the easiest thing is to put you on a circulation list of the effectiveness of that organisation and what they're achieving, because they've achieved some really good things in a really short timeline. So if I can put you on that circulation list, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so it just remains for us to vote as a cabinet on the agenda item 9 as proposed in the agenda pack. It is proposed by Councillor Stoddart. I will second it. And all cabinet members in favour? Thank you. Agenda item 10 is to close the meeting. I would like to thank everyone for their attendance, both virtually and in the room. The next meeting of Cabinet is scheduled for 2:30 p.m. on the 27th of June. I will now formally close the meeting and ask all members of the public to leave the building promptly. Please ensure you've taken all of your personal possessions with you and return your visitor pass when you leave. Please can I have it confirmation that the live stream has stopped?